Once upon a time, Mara Rook woke to rain ticking on the reed thatch and found wet footprints crossing her kitchen floor. They began at the locked garden door. They ended beside her bed. Mara lay beneath the patched quilt and listened. In damp weather, the cottage had its own small noises. Casement glass clicked in its frame. The range settled. Water dripped from the pump handle beyond the back step. These prints were different. They were boot prints, pressed in black dyke mud. One heel mark sat beside the scrubbed table, another crossed the faded rug. At the bedroom threshold, the trail blurred and vanished. Elias slept beside her, turned toward the wall. Mara rose and crossed the cold boards. The garden door was bolted. Its iron latch still rested in the staple. She lifted it, opened the door a finger's width, and saw rain slanting over the bean rows. Nobody stood outside. When she turned back, Elias was awake. "You've been out," she said. He blinked, as though the room had surprised him. "No. Your boots are by the range." He looked toward the kitchen. The boots stood where he kept them, toes to the hearth. Their leather was dark with wet marsh mud. Elias put one hand on the table. "I must have gone to the mill." "In your sleep?" He gave her no answer. Mara had spent years putting things where they belonged. Before her marriage, she had kept house for a widow in Norwich, where each spoon had its drawer and every scuttle its corner. The cottage beside the dyke was humbler, though Elias could disorder a room before breakfast. She knew his ways. He hung his coat on the peg nearest the plank door. He left twine in his pockets. He forgot his pipe on the window ledge. Rain took him from the cottage only when the drainage mill needed tending. While he chopped kindling in the attached shed, Mara searched his coat. Behind the lining, she found a folded scrap of paper. "When rain comes, back gate, book, sluice." The writing was Elias's, thick pencil pressed hard enough to scar the paper. Mara read it twice, tucked it into her apron pocket, and waited for supper. At the table, Elias passed her tea with one lump of sugar already in the cup. He remembered that much. For half a breath, her anger loosened. Then he looked through the rain-streaked glass and said, "Do you remember the village where we married?" Mara set down her spoon. "You remember?" "I did. It was St. Olwen's." He repeated the name as if he were testing it against a locked door. St. Olwen's. After dark, the rain grew heavier. Elias rose and reached for his coat. "The mill needs watching," he said. Mara held the folded note between two fingers. "Who is she?" He stared at it. Guilt would have been easier to meet. What crossed his face was fear, though he seemed unable to name what he feared. "Mara," he said, "don't come after me." Then he left through the back gate. She stood at the window until the lamp burned low. When Mara opened her eyes again, rain was falling. The patched quilt covered her. Elias breathed beside her, shallower than before. For a moment, she thought she had slept through the day. Then she saw the garden. The bean poles were gone. Bare strings sagged between their sticks. Winter cabbages stood along the back wall. The hollyhock stalks had blackened and been cut low. Elias had more grey at his temples. In the kitchen, Mara found the shirt she had mended before he went out. The tear beneath its sleeve had returned. Her small seam was gone. She sat hard at the scrubbed table. The rain had brought her back, though she could not remember leaving. Days without rain had passed beyond her reach. How many she could not tell. In the dresser drawer, beneath the account book and a packet of needles, she found a brown envelope addressed to Elias Rook. Its seal had been broken. The letter inside came from a solicitor in Yarmouth. It concerned a small sum held after the death of Elias Rook's wife. Mara read that line until the letters shook. October 1888. She was dead. A hard anger rose in her. The cottage had been hers as much as his. The blue jug on the dresser had come from her old employer as a wedding gift. Elias had let the world call him a widower while he carried secret instructions through the rain. When he came in from the shed, she held up the letter. "You told them I drowned." He saw the page and went pale. "You let them write widow beside my name." "Mara," he said. He came toward her with both hands raised, as if she were a frightened horse. She stepped back. Outside, rain ran down the glass. Across the black water, a cow called from the grazing marsh. The sound carried cleanly through the weather. Then the room lost its edges. Elias reached for her. Mara did not take his hand. The next time she woke, rain struck the roof, hard enough to bend the lamp flame inside its chimney. Mara dressed before Elias could rise. He caught her wrist near the bedroom door. "Stay here." "You said that before." His grip loosened. She took her shawl and went out. The raised bank ran from the cottage toward the staithe, then onto the mill, a narrow ridge above the dyke. Black water lay on either side. Reed beds bent under the weather. Beyond the grazing marsh, a church tower appeared once through the rain, then disappeared. Elias walked ahead, his collar turned up. At the staithe, a reed boat knocked softly against its post. Hester Lark, in her oilskin cape, tied down sacks beneath a tarpaulin. She had brought flour, lamp oil, and post along the waterway for as long as Mara had lived there. "Hester," Mara called. The older woman did not look up. "Hester!" Nothing. Elias reached the staithe. Hester straightened and fixed him with a look stripped of patience. "You're out again," she said. "I've work." "You've had work every wet night this autumn. Last fortnight, I found you at that mill with no lamp and your coat open, talking to the water." Mara looked at Elias. He kept his eyes on the path. Hester pulled the rope tight. "You were alone then?" "I wasn't." "You were. I know what I saw." Mara stepped close enough that rain should have touched Hester's sleeve. "I'm here." Hester bent to another knot. The words died in Mara's throat. Elias moved away from the staithe. Hester caught his sleeve. "Promise me you won't go down to the gate." He pulled free, careful even in his haste, and went toward the mill. Mara followed. The drainage mill stood on a brick base above the dyke. Its sails turned slowly in the rain. The door had swollen in its frame, and Mara had to set her shoulder against it. Wet timber and old oil filled the air inside. A ladder rose beside the gearing. Below the boards, water moved through the dark machinery. Near the wall, a water-level book lay open on a desk. Mara turned its pages. The first entries were ordinary. Dates, rainfall, sluice heights, a broken paddle, a hinge that had seized, reed delayed on the water by bad weather. Then the writing changed. Mara burns the oatcakes at the edges and pretends she meant them so. Mara counts the spoons before company comes. Mara hums while she scrubs the doorstep. Each sentence was in Elias's hand. Each had been written on a page of its own. The older pages had bled blank. Ink clung at their margins in pale blue stains, as though the paper had been held beneath running water. The newer pages still bore their words. Mara turned another. Mara's red ribbon in the second drawer. Another. Mara hates thunder, but says she doesn't. The last written page held 2 words. Mara's name. The mill door shut behind her. Elias stood there, rain running from his coat. He looked as if she had found him with his hands inside a grave. "What is this?" Mara asked. He crossed the room and closed the book. "You shouldn't have come." "What have you done?" His fingers rested on the cover. They trembled. "At the first rain after you died," he said, "there was a page in the book. I wrote one thing down, the oatcakes. I thought that if I put it somewhere, it might stay." He looked toward the dark space beneath the floor. "I opened the sluice. The water took the page. And in the morning you were in our bed." Mara remembered the footprints at the locked door, the vanished days. Hester's face turned away from her. "You did it again," she said. "Yes." "How many times?" He looked at the book. "I don't know." That answer hurt more than any number. "At first I chose things I thought I could lose," he said. "A ribbon, a tune, the name of your first employer. Then the things left were nearer to you. You called them things you could lose. I wanted you back. You wanted a woman you could remember safely." His face tightened. He rubbed his hand across his mouth. Mara looked again at the pages. The book held pieces made gentle enough to surrender. Her clean step, her burnt oatcakes, her red ribbon. It held nothing of the night she had shouted because he left wet nets on the table. Nothing of the quarrel when she had threatened to go to Norwich alone if he kept taking every danger upon himself. He had kept her near. The woman in those pages had been pared down to what he could bear to lose. On a shelf beneath the ledger, Mara found an older repair note. Damp had curled its edges. October 1888. Loose reed bundle caught below gate. Bank soft near footbridge. Clear before night water. The date on the solicitor's letter. Elias spoke without looking at her. The mill had failed to pull hard enough. The reed bundle jammed the sluice. Water pressed against the bank. I ran out to free it. You told me to stay inside. Yes. But I brought the rope. He shut his eyes. Fragments came to Mara, though they did not feel like memories. A coil of rope by the door, her hand on the footbridge rail, the bridge shifting beneath her boots, Elias shouting from the gate, boards splitting. The crossing gave way, he said. You went into the dyke. You couldn't reach me. No. Rain beat the mill walls. The note described a chain of work gone wrong. Reed below the gate, a softened bank, a failing crossing. Elias had carried that night forward until it had become his work in every storm. Mara touched one of the blank pages. You have to stop. He sat heavily on the bench by the desk. I don't know how. The heaviest storm came when the reeds lay flat and the dyke had risen close to the bank's edge. Mara woke to find Elias already dressed. The water-level book was under his arm. His coat was more worn than she remembered. The grey at his temples had spread. At the mill, he set the book beneath the lamp. One page still held writing, Mara's name. Elias stared at it. Who is Mara? Mara asked. He looked up, bewildered. For an instant, hope crossed his face. Then it went out. A woman, he said. My wife, I think. You think? He reached for the pencil. When it rains, I come here. The note says so. That name is all you have left without reading. His hand stopped above the page. Below them, the sluice gate shuddered. Water forced through the channels with a low, grinding sound. Elias bent to write. Mara crossed the room. Beside the gate mechanism stood the shut-off wheel, iron dark with damp. Elias had always needed both hands to turn it. Mara seized it. Mara, he said, This time, her name came as if from a great distance. She turned the wheel. It resisted. She turned again. Iron bit into her palms, though her fingers had begun to pale at their edges. Below, the gate groaned. The rush of water narrowed. Elias caught her shoulder. "Don't. If you send that page through, you'll lose the last of me." "I already have." "You've lost pieces." The wheel gave a fraction. The sluice began to close. Elias looked from the book to the page, then to Mara. Rain ran through her hair and down the front of her dress. She no longer felt its cold. "I don't want this," he said. "I know." The gate slammed shut. The mill fell quiet except for rain on the roof. Mara's fingers loosened from the wheel. The room showed through her sleeve. Elias made a low, helpless sound and reached for her. His hands passed through the shawl at her shoulders. "Please," he said, "one more night." She wanted it too. The cottage, the table, his boots drying by the range, the life taken from her without warning. Then she looked at the book between them. Her name remained on the page. Elias saw it. He touched the paper with one wet finger, then folded the book closed. Mara waited. He did not open it again. Toward dawn, the rain weakened. The drops came farther apart. Grey gathered on the mill walls. Elias sat on the bench with the closed book against his chest. Mara stood by the shut gate until she could no longer see her hands. Then she was gone. At the next rain, Elias heard the first drops strike the reed thatch. He sat at the scrubbed table. The water-level book waited on its shelf near the dresser. After a long while, he took it down and found the folded instruction in his own hand. "When rain comes, back gate, book, sluice." He read it once. Then Elias folded the page shut, left the mill dark, and sat at the table while rain marked the casement glass.